This is Rogers TV.
Welcome to this edition of Dufferin Life. I'm your host, Teena Avery. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so are you a fan of TV series or movies that include hospitals? Are you always wondering what's going on? Like, you hear certain terminology and you're like, yeah, you get into it and you think this is a really good show. But we're going to talk about some real hospital stuff today. We're going to talk about what is new at Headwaters Healthcare Centre, and I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves because their titles are very impressive and I don't want to make a mistake. So thank you very, very much for joining me.
Wonderful to be here. I'm Sandra Hartman, and I am a member of the Headwaters Healthcare Foundation Board, and I also sit on the Smart Headwaters Campaign Cabinet.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks for having us. My name is Asad Naqvi. I'm the Chief of Diagnostic Imaging at Headwaters Healthcare.
And diagnostic imaging, basically x-rays, CT machines, that sort of thing? That's
X-rays, CTs, ultrasounds, nuclear medicine, MRI. So a vast variety of things.
And I hear rumor that there is a new CT machine at Headwaters Healthcare Centre. So I want to start off by saying we watch all these shows, and that's where I was going in the beginning. But it's a very serious and very exciting thing that's happening over at Headwaters Healthcare Centre. And we want to talk about what a CT machine is.
Of course. So a CT is it stands for computed tomography, which is basically a painless medical imaging tool that we use to help diagnose certain medical conditions. The way we do that is the machine employs various X-rays to help take images of the internal body organs and helps depict them so that we can further characterize any pathology that exists with the rest of them.
So in layman's terms, because that's me. So it's kind of like what an X-ray did for us when X-rays were first created, but it's so much more intense and much more accurate, I'm assuming. Accurate
and far more advanced for sure.
Okay, so why did the Headwaters Healthcare Centre get a new CT machine?
Of course. So as we know, Dufferin County is growing, and Headwaters Healthcare wanted to prepare for the future and the current demands of our population. And I'd like to add, Headwaters Healthcare is the first hospital to employ the GE Healthcare Ascent CT to help improve our patient experience.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. So, and I'm not sure if everyone out there is aware of this or not, but machines like this are not something that are just funded by the government and handed out to hospitals. They have to be fundraised, and there have to be. So how did Headwaters raise the funds for such a phenomenal machine?
Well, we absolutely couldn't have done it without this amazing community. Our foundation, Headwaters Healthcare Foundation, has an amazing team who put together so many fundraising events, so everything from our annual gala to golf tournaments to campaigns that anybody can contribute to, and we really want you to contribute to it. So all of the funds that were used to purchase this CT came through donations from the community.
And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that a large majority of what you need for the hospital comes through fundraising.
100%. 100%. So basically, as a layperson, I have 3 children, so we've been frequenters to the hospital for boys with broken bones and what have you. Virtually everybody who comes through the hospital doors is going to need some level of diagnostic imaging. Almost every piece of equipment that touches a patient's body from the time they come through the doors until they leave has been fundraised for. People are quite surprised when they hear that that's not where their taxpayer dollars go to. So we've have a new campaign called Smart Headwaters, and it's that's where the money is being used to purchase the CT and our future MRI.
Well, I think that, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think there's a great importance in creating awareness for that, because there are a lot of people that think that the tax dollars fund, as you mentioned, or the government just literally will just say, oh well, you know what, Headwaters Healthcare Foundation needs a new CT machine, here you go, and that's not what it is. And because you provide such a vital service for our entire community and surrounding communities that come in to use the hospital as well, I think it's important to create that awareness.
Yes, and it is so critical to what we need to do to grow our hospital. As Dr. Navi said, the community is growing. The hospital has to grow, and for us to be able to acquire this piece of equipment is so critical for the number of patients that we can move through that require a CT. Like all of that equipment is we
need it, yeah, absolutely.
We need it,
and it's a growing community. So I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but what difference will this make for our community?
First and foremost, we'll be able to do a lot more scans than we currently can.
Okay.
Furthermore, for the patients, I think one of the best improvements in healthcare has been the technological advances in the CT. We can use something called dose modulation. With every CT comes some sort of radiation, but in this new CT, we're able to reduce the risk of radiation exposure to our patients. Also, the new CT machine, it's a wide bore CT, so that allows us to include a various subset of populations with increased BMI or increased abdominal girth, or even patients that are more anxious.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so that should allow us to improve the patient experience overall.
And I think that's really important too, because I mean, I've never had a CT scan done. I know people who have, but I think when I think of it, I'm just like, ooh, you touched on the two things that create anxiety for me, is the anxiety, the radiation, and then possibly being enclosed. So this is a machine that somebody lies down and you go into, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that would create anxiety for many people, just that closed-in factor.
Yeah.
And how long does a CT scan normally take?
It all depends. It depends what kind of body scan you're imaging, but generally less than a minute to a minute and a half, let's say. Yeah.
So here I am picturing like this long time where you're just sitting in there. But yeah, so I'm assuming that that those were the main reasons why you chose this new machine.
That's definitely one of the reasons. Our old CT scanner that we had was a 64 slice CT scanner, but this one is a 128 slice CT scanner.
Okay.
Which basically means more detectors, better improved accuracy, better pictures, and furthermore, like I alluded to before, more decreased scan time, more scans that we can then perform for our population.
Okay, so will this increase the number of appointments that you can, or number of patients you can see?
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Currently, Headwaters is able to, before with our old CT, we were able to scan 20 outpatients.
Okay.
But hopefully with this, we are very optimistic that we should be able to increase more patients coming through for their scans.
And I think too, when we're thinking about it, and I'm trying to do this with myself currently, which I've never really done before, is like taking care of myself and being a little bit more proactive with my health, and proactive with, because if you catch things sooner, there's a greater possibility that it can be dealt with in a much better way, I'm assuming. So having something like this that can give you more accurate looks at what's going on the inside, because you're the only ones that can do that for us, for sure. But when you're out and your doctor suggests something like this, it is something that people should be doing and going and having done, and those of us who have anxiety over things like that should just go in and have it done, right? Like it's just...
Yeah, the advice of your medical practitioner, for sure.
What it also means too is that with this new machine, and the other piece of equipment that we'll be able to purchase with our campaign is that we can take care of you here.
Yes.
This is your hospital, and that's so critical because it's such a beautiful community. It's such a beautiful area. So we want our people people within the community to be able to know that they can count on us taking care of them.
Yes.
Which is, that's
yeah, because you hear about people who have to go outside of town to have the tests done, and now and you're doing such a wonderful job and with all the fundraising and bringing in this equipment that is needed in our community. Because there, like I said, and I keep saying anxiety, but there's a lot of anxiety about health, especially if something is wrong or something somebody's working on. And not only is it just makes you more comfortable being at home, because as you said, we live in a wonderful community, and I had both of my children at Headwaters. Like I've been there several times. I've had I've been in there for myself and my mother and my father, and when you walk in there, yes, it's a hospital as it should be, but you have that they're going to take care of me feeling, because the whole community just kind of alludes to that to begin with. And there's nothing better than walking in when you're already so anxious about your health, somebody else's health. To walk in and just know that everybody is going to make you feel like you are the most important person in the world and what they're dealing with, and give you that comfort level to reduce some of that anxiety.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. So let's talk about the Smart Headwaters campaign. When did you start fundraising for this?
This is such an exciting campaign because, so when did we start? In 2022, we were doing a lot of background work on it, and it got, the campaign Smart Headwaters was launched to the public in June 2023.
Okay.
So it is our largest campaign ever. $18 million.
Wow.
So yeah, that's huge. That's a capital campaign to upgrade essential equipment. Virtually, I think every piece of diagnostic imaging equipment has been slated, or it has been upgraded. So our digital mammography was upgraded last year. We have the new CT machine, and for the first time ever, Orangeville and the surrounding community will have our first MRI, and that's critical. One of our surgeons spoke recently about just the frustration that she had when a patient came into the emergency department. It was a farmer. He had been injured, and it took him a few days to decide that I probably need to get to the hospital.
Right.
She knew that he needed to have surgery. He needed neurosurgery, but she also knew that she could not send him on to a neurosurgeon until he had an MRI. She spent 12 hours on the phone calling neurosurgeons. Nobody would see him until he had the MRI. So he ended up going from Orangeville to London in the middle of the night to get an MRI, to then come back. And unfortunately, the injury was severe that it was life-changing.
Right.
Had that MRI been up and running in our community, would have been in, referred on to a neurosurgeon, and it could have been a totally different outcome. So, this campaign is so exciting, and everybody at the campaign cabinet, the foundation office, we are just so excited about where we're going to be able to go with this.
Wonderful. And I don't mean to cut you off. I think we could keep talking about it, but I want to thank you both for joining us. For ways to find out how you can help the Headwaters Healthcare Foundation, please go to their website. Please look for information online. And I want to say, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. So this is when I look at you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Man, is there a lot of pressure on this young fighter here tonight?
Fighting is
his life.
This is my belt. I earned this in blood, paid in full. This is mine.
Everyone gets knocked down, but fighters get back up.
You cannot break me, I promise you.
Adversity is the road to victory. Sacrifice is the price for glory. The very struggle for survival is the fight for greatness.
Welcome back to Dufferin Life. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, we're flipping topics. So I've always prided myself on trying to learn new things. Maybe new things that maybe I wasn't interested in, maybe new things I know nothing about. And that's why I love that you are joining me on these journeys that I have when I bring on new guests that tell us a little bit about something that maybe we don't know about or we haven't even thought about, but we might be interested in. Joining me, Naomi, thank you for joining me so much.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and I want to talk a little bit about, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself and let people know what you do.
Sure.
Because I feel that you can do it more eloquently than I can.
Let's hope. Okay. So I'm Naomi. I'm the co-director and co-owner of Cohesive Intentions.
Okay.
I am the owner and creative director of Cohesive Intentions. I'm the co-director and co-creative director of Twisted Hexes.
Okay.
So there's two companies here. So a lot of what I do is I'm a candle maker.
Okay.
I create candles based on intention. And that is by a lot of what my messages are from spirit guides, from source, from whatever you want to call it. They come to me through smell.
Okay.
So what I do is I create what I smell for happiness or love, that kind of anxiety, that kind of stuff, and whatever smell comes to me, I recreate so I can share that with everyone else.
Okay, this intrigues me, so I'm going to stop you there, and then we're going to dive into what else you do.
Sure.
So, how does one go about creating a different smell? So it's different scents that you're using to create the candles.
Yes. So I use essential oils.
Okay.
So that's a challenge on its own because it's not like fragrance oils where you have strawberries and all of this, right? Synthetic smells. It's pretty much just natural sourced smells.
Okay.
In their oils. And I just sit there and I just sort of dissect the smell. It's really abstract.
Okay.
Explaining it to someone, but I'll sit there and I'll think of, okay, a cleansing candle, what do I smell, what comes to me, and then I sort of dissect it and I recreate it with different base notes, middle tones and stuff like that. So sort of similar to if someone was creating a perfume.
Okay.
But instead it's like the message is coming through, right? Instead of someone trying to create a certain smell, right?
Okay. Right. Yeah, so it's very personalized for the person that you're doing it for.
Yeah, either whether it's custom or very general. It's very, so again, talking about my cleansing candle, it's lavender, vetiver, and vanilla. Certain smells that you wouldn't think would actually sort of go together, but they do. And then they have that sort of cleansing that and I call it clear the fog. So it's sort of like has that like calming, but like let's sort of get to the root of what's going on to sort of make room for the new things, kind of thing like that.
Well, I think that when people, we think about smells. So when you're just talking about regular everyday smells, like when you walk into your home and your partner is cooking this delicious meal and you've got the smells of your home, you've got whatever it happens to be, whatever is cooking, you get that instant almost like, oh, I'm home.
Yes.
I'm here. So I don't know, and not everybody thinks of a candle that way. Like everybody does. Like you go to the store, you smell a candle, you're like, this smells nice. But it doesn't necessarily bring you to where you need to be.
Yes, need to be, or where you want to be, or inspire you to go to where you need to be, or dig deeper, or release what you need to release. lift you up in a certain way as well, help you deal with different things. I've had a lot of clients ask me for custom smells for like fertility and for stuff like that. So it's
which you wouldn't think about, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? But like it's to, so for a certain client, like you sort of marry the masculine and feminine scents together. And actually that's a really cool story, because that was sort of very intuitively based. She's like, I just want this. And I was like, okay. So then I told her, I'm like, I created this because I wanted to balance the masculine and feminine energy within you and your partner and all of this stuff. She's like, oh, that's what we've been working on. And it was very interesting how everything sort of fell into
together.
place.
Yeah.
Yes, it was really good. So yeah, but you don't think of scents actually.
Well, you
doing
don't
that.
you think, oh, this smells good, or maybe, I mean, some people like the smell of, cinnamon, pumpkin-y things. Not me personally, but like, those sorts of things. You think you bring in the smells into your home that you enjoy, but I don't think people realize how a scent can affect them.
Right. And then so too, with scents, saying that, how scents affect them, that's actually when I do readings and stuff like that, that's how some of the messages come through to me as well. And I relate those what the scent I smell, those messages is how I can interpret what that person needs to hear as well in the readings as well. So like I could pull cards on someone and I'll be like, oh, like a past one, if a past one comes through, I'm like, what does the smell of this remind you of, right? And then they're, oh, well, my grandmother like used to use this, right? Like that kind of stuff sort of comes through. So that's sort of another way that like my gifts and everything sort of work together, right? Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about the tarot cards.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about them. I will be honest. I'm learning more and more as my life goes on. I think for me, I'll be completely honest, I'm not a very spiritual person, but as things have changed in my life as I get older, I'm finding I reach sometimes for it. Like I find it more intriguing now than I ever have, just to kind of see, that there's possibilities out there that maybe I didn't consider before. Or maybe because I'm an extremely busy human that never stops going and going and going, that I never stop and take a step back to realize that sort of thing. So when we're talking about tarot cards and readings, I'm going to get you to tell me a little bit about the concept behind the cards, and then I've got a few more questions for you.
Of course. So the concept behind your cards, so there's the traditional Rider-Waite deck, which is, I'm pretty sure that's what comes up to mind when everyone hears tarot. It's like the yellow background cards with the very distinct artwork on them. A lot of people use that as a basic starter deck, and you can do that. For me, it was more of what I was sort of gravitated towards as a deck, and it's still, again, those cards have the same meaning, but they're also different too for how you interpret them, how you look at the pictures, what it means to you, what it means to the person that you're reading as well, because you can, being a reader, you can feel that. Well, I read a little differently, so I read based on feeling, so I can feel sort of what's going on through the cards, through the person, and so then that sort of transpires out in the cards, and so what my interpretation of the cards is could be different from someone else who is reading the cards as well, right? But again, it's all what sort of resonates with you, and what you like, what the story the cards are trying to say, right? And how you interpret that. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does, and because that was leading into my next question, because like there's so many different types of tarot cards, and I was shopping for a gift a little closer to Christmas for somebody who just dabbles, is interested in learning a little bit more, and I went to buy, and you can go into the stores, and there's so many different types of tarot cards, and I picked the one that caught my attention, but knowing that it was something that she would catch her attention to, like, because there's so many different types. So, and as you were saying, the idea behind the different types is like the concept is the same, but
so like for me, my deck is very feminine based. I lead a lot with my heart, so a lot of the cards that I gravitate towards too are like, well, not like happy-go-lucky, but they're very more flowy, very more warm, warm. Yeah, that there's that sense of beauty in them, that femininity.
Yeah.
The main deck that I do use actually has no masculine cards.
Okay.
So, and they actually call the kings, what would be the kings, they're actually called muses.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different that way. And a lot of decks are different like that too, where they'll call certain suits like, so again, so the deck that I use, the wands are actually, oh my goodness, how come I just blanked there?
It's all good. It's all
But like,
good.
yeah, so the different suits are different things, right? So it's all sort of what you take in, what means to you. It's really an intimate relationship you have with your cards as well, if you
Okay.
are a reader. For me, at least, I know everyone practices differently, but I like to have that like nice intimate relationship with my cards. Like when I first get a new deck, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to use you, and I really feel like I go to bed with it. You know, I carry it with me everywhere, especially before I start using it to read people.
Okay.
Right, because I want the cards to be used to my energy and what they mean to me as well. Right. So even if it's like looking at them, like sitting on the couch watching TV and then pulling one up and being like, oh, like, this makes me feel like this. Again, because I read by feeling, oh, this card makes me feel this.
Right.
That kind of thing. And so then when they get pulled in sequence, it's sort of like a
story?
A story, yeah.
Okay.
And you're really reading a story. And it's really interesting to watch how that story, like, really intuitively plays with the person that you're reading. And it's really magic on its own, really, to be honest. A lot too in my readings, I dabble into a little bit of astrology because
Okay.
I can feel sort of how you're reacting and how that sort of responds to a zodiac sign.
Right.
So, which is very interesting. I don't think a lot of people do that in their tarot readings. I'm not too sure. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But again, we all
very
read sort of
personalized
different.
thing, yeah.
But it's very interesting too to be reading someone's cards and being like, oh, but you're an Aquarius, right? And they're like, how did you know? Like, and it's sort of like, oh, well, the way the cards are, the way you're sort of responding right now, like it sort of makes sense, right?
Is it hard to read somebody who's skeptical?
Absolutely.
I was going to say, because they're
Absolutely.
not putting it out there for you, right?
Right.
Like,
It's like a give and take, right? Reading someone is like a give and take. If someone's being skeptical, it really feels like it's like you're running down walking down the street, and then you hit that wall, and you're like, oh, what happened? Like,
Right.
there's no flow, right? There's no flow. So, reading someone that's skeptical is very difficult, very, very difficult. Or you feel like you're going this way, you're going that way, you're going this way, and you're like, I'm really confused.
So the
right
story's
now.
taking different turns.
Yeah,
right?
and you're
it's
just like,
yeah.
you're just like, does this make sense? Like, and I feel like a lot of times when you're reading someone that's skeptical, you're like, does this make sense? Like every time, every like couple card flips, you're like, so this is happening.
Or is it?
Right,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Or is it? Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that's why I think most readers will ask, like, as they're shuffling the cards, oh, what makes you want a reading today,
Yeah.
just to sort of see, like, what we're going to get kind of thing too,
Yeah,
right? Because it's sort of, it is difficult. That skepticism is very hard to read, as anyone would think,
Yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah, no
I really
worries.
want to thank you so much for
Yes.
joining me today and kind of giving us a little bit more insight.
yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me.
It was truly my pleasure, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.